As a reminder to all Vermonters, if you're in a life-threatening situation, call 911.
We called the fire department, and they gave us a call back a half an hour later saying we can't get to you.
The closer you get to the Winooski River here in downtown Montpelier, Vermont, the higher the water is rising. Homes and businesses are absolutely inundated by this historic flood.
No one came to rescue us.
I didn't expect it to be this bad. I've never seen it like this.
Seems like it has gotten worse since we saw you last.
It was pretty surreal. Yeah, kind of cool, in a post-apocalyptic way.
They looked it up and they had all the roads closed going in, and there was no way to get to work.
Vermont's capital city was one of several cities across the Northeast to experience freshwater flooding last year. After an active month of January, forecasters are already looking ahead to flooding potential for 2024. Joining us now is Bill Saunders, senior hydrologist at the NWS Northeast River Forecast Center. The Northeast wasn't necessarily a target for major spring flooding, but there were still a few blockbuster events to talk about during the summer and the fall. Is this typical to see for the area?
Summer and fall, I would not call it typical for sure, but flooding can happen at any time. What was very interesting about this summer is how quickly we transitioned from a relatively, benign spring season into a very wet summer, particularly in July. There were actually a couple of events that happened, 2 storms that hit right away, early July, about 2 to 4 inches of rain, followed just about 5 days later with 5 to 8 inches. Anytime you get up to 10 inches of rain, you can expect flooding.
And is there anything else specifically that stuck out to really make 2023 unique in your perspective?
One other thing I would point out about that July event that was new for us is, we also handle calls for potential dam breaches. And I've been working for the Northeast River Forecast Center about 15 years. And over that time, if we would get one call for a potential dam breach in a year, that would make it a fairly active or average year. During this event, we received 6 calls for potential dam breaches, which is unheard of for us. We're in the Northeast. We have some of the oldest dams in the country here. And so if we're going to be having more of these events that put more strain on the old dams, the potential for dam failures is greater.
And your team is already monitoring what the forecast could look like into the spring. Are there specific factors that you're taking into account with the forecast? Give us some of the highlights with that.
Oh, sure. We look at a number of things for the spring flood outlook. For example, climate regime. We want to know, for example, if it's going to be an El Nino year. When that happens, we will see typically the maintenance of a more active subtropical jet, which kind of brings us more inclement weather. We also look at the National Climate Prediction Center for their outlooks on what temperature and precipitation are going to be. Right now, they're suggesting it's going to be wetter and above normal for temperatures. And we also look at how much water is in the snowpack.
And bouncing off of kind of the state of the snowpack, we haven't seen a lot of snow. We kind of officially broke a little bit of a snow drought here across the Northeast. Now, does that lack of snow bring any long-term impacts to the area? And if so, what are those and how do you take those into account?
Well, it's kind of funny that you should ask that question because when we started talking about 2023, and this is similar in that we had a very slow start to the winter. Finally did pick up. I would not suggest much of an impact for consumptive supply in the Northeast this year. I mean, right now our groundwater levels are very high. Our reservoirs are above normal. I don't think that we'd have much of an impact for public water supply. The biggest impact right now is winter recreation. Ski areas are probably feeling it a little bit.
And as far as the public is concerned, is there anything specific that you would like them to focus on or prepare for as we move into the spring?
Well, flooding can happen at any time, as we saw back in July of 2023 there. Know what your own individual flood risk is based on where you live and how frequently you may have experienced flooding there. Have a plan to evacuate in case that ever happens. And of course, if you're on the road, never drive through floodwater.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.